When you think of a wealthy Gulf country, the first thing that comes to mind, that's right, it's oil. But you see, oil isn't something that's simply coming out of the ground. It's been responsible for wars, politics and power, wealth, transportation, building skyscrapers on deserts. And not to mention, it's our most important source of energy. In fact, some of the world's wealthiest countries come from the GCC, the Gulf Corporate Council. These are countries that export oil, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman. But how exactly did this black sticky substance help get these countries to the place they are at today? Let's take a look at how oil in the Gulf shaped the world.
CO2 emissions from the energy sector and industries have increased by 60% since 1992.
More dirty oil washed ashore today. The greatest oil spill in American history, and there's more to this disaster you can't see.
The only thing holding America right now at the top is the petrodollar. And let me make it very clear. If the petrodollar dies, so does America as a superpower.
I'm standing here in a beautiful city of Mumbai at a gas station. Our country does not have a lot of massive oil reserves, but we can see the Mumbai high oil offshore field in the Gulf of Camden. Have you ever wondered why all the Gulf countries are specifically rich in oil? Let's understand why these environments are so.
We will have to go back to a time when humans did not exist in order to understand how oil was formed. Oil is a hydrocarbon by nature. It first started to form millions of years ago. Its formation takes a long period. Only 10% of oil deposits were created during the Paleozoic era, while 70% of oil deposits in existence today were created long back in the Mesozoic era. In shallow sea millions of years ago, algae and plants coexisted. The organic material decayed, sank to the seafloor, mingled with other sediments and was buried. These remains underwent a transformation at high pressure and temperature. Tectonic plates also have a role to play in generation of oil as we know it. They are said to create a pressure cooker that slowly matures the organics into oil and gas. The plate tectonics and continental rifting provide just the right conditions for rapid burial of remains in oxygen deficit waters. This makes the hydrogen and carbon bonds of oil stronger. These hydrocarbons eventually force their way to the top because they are significantly more buoyant than water. In the modern world, such environments are seen majorly in gulfs and basins. These reservoirs are what we now call oil and gas fields.
Now that was a long story, right? So the takeaway from all of this is oil does not get generated as fast as we're consuming it. So a message to the future generations, switch to electrical vehicles. I mean, who doesn't want to own a Tesla, right?
Sorry for the interruption folks, but we are here with some breaking news.
As of 2020, oil prices have been the lowest for the first time in history since 2015.
Before we get into the details, let's have a look at how this black gold has been monumental in shaping the world.
In 2000 BC, oil was used for the first time by Egyptians and Babylonians to waterproof their boats. This aided them with transport. Next came 3000 BC, where the Greeks used oil to light their lamps. Right before the beginning of the 19th century, the first oil well was discovered in America. Gasoline was being used to fuel motor cars. Then in the beginning of the 19th century, the first Arab nation was found to have oil. A British company also struck oil in Persia, and this was what set a wave of exploration.
In 1914, oil was struck for the first time in Venezuela. It was upon discovering that Venezuela has the largest oil reserve in the world, even ahead of Saudi Arabia. Yes, hard to believe, right? World War I and II both had a massive dependence on oil as well.
Then in the 1916, all the nations came together and formed a body called as the OPEC. This was to end the Western monopoly and have a fair and stable oil price.
In 1975, Britain succeeded with their oil exploration, especially in the Northern Sea in the Cruden Way.
Then in the 1990, the Gulf War began. Iraq invaded Kuwait over a dispute of oil territory. Iraqi forces set fire to over 700 of oil fields.
The US pumped high-pressure fluids in the cracks in the ground, which were also known as fracks. This led to enabling of oil extraction from the rocks, which caused a sharp fall in import of oil, especially from the Middle East. In 2010, an attempt was made to dig the deepest borehole in the world. This left the US in deep trouble, as this caused the largest oil spill ever known in history, which was the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, which caused the highest ever mortality rate seen in marine life. As of this time, 27% of the air pollution seen is caused as an adverse effect of oil consumption. For example, heavy oil emits 3,500 times more sulfur than diesel. VOCs, that is volatile organic compounds, cause a harmful depletion of ozone layer in the lower atmospheric region.
Coming on to the year of 2015, the first oil price collapse took place. This was due to the Middle Eastern nations trading oil to destroy other nations, and this includes the US fracks, Russia, North Sea oil explored by the UK. At this point of time, 1 barrel of oil costed $67.5 American dollars.
And now coming to the infamous Wuhan times and the price wars between Saudi and Russia, during which OPEC witnessed the biggest bust, where prices were in negatives, going down to almost minus $38 per barrel.
Well, that's all for now, folks. Thank you for watching. India Wants to Know.
It won't be too far-fetched for us to imagine what would happen if one day the tap ran out. Scary, sure, but scarily not impossible. Lucky for us, even the harshest of estimates still give us a few years to redirect our energy effort. The day that oil ceases to exist would be the day countless of industries would collapse, hence causing a fierce competition for whatever is left of the resource. No non-renewable source of energy has ever created more havoc and prosperity for humans equally. Yet we can't escape the fact that we need oil for our daily lives. Right from commute to making plastic that make our lives so convenient to even life-saving medication. So needless to say, no matter how efficient that we may think the alternatives to oil are, it would be extremely painful if oil ceases to exist one day.
Everything now is a race against time. With the overuse and exploitation of fossil fuels, research and development is now ballooning to find alternate sources of energy, such as wind and solar energy, nuclear energy, bioalcohols and biodiesel. For example, biodiesel. It comes from recycled restaurant grease, vegetable oils and animal fats. Its physical structure is that similar to diesel, but it runs cheaper, safer and more eco-friendly. On the other hand, we have bioalcohol, which is similar to ethanol. It comes from distilling wheat, corn or barley, and it is the alternative to petrol. Next comes CNG or compressed natural gas. It is a clean energy resource, although non-renewable. But electricity still has our backs. Most cars these days are switching to electric batteries. So you see, eco-diversification of oil is extremely important, especially for the countries that are exporting oil. And every country has its own strategy. Let's take an example of the Masdar city in Abu Dhabi. It is the city of the future. Why? Because it runs mostly on renewable sources of energy. The houses have highly energy efficient appliances and low flow showers. Not to mention, the city also holds the International Renewable Energy Agency, which helps other cities go green. Next, we have the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park. Once finished construction, it will be the largest solar park in the world. It also houses a green hydrogen power plant. This is going to help the Emirates reach their target of using 75% of renewable energy sources by 2050. So to conclude, our enslavement to oil since the Industrial Revolution has definitely helped humanity progress. There's no denying that the golden goose of the Gulf has shaped the world.
अरे न्यूज़ देखा क्या? पेट्रोल का दाम फिर से बढ़ गया है।